just playing the keeper in Thor 3. Whatever that
Is
guy's
that not
name.
kind of the wizard, though?
Okay,
Like, I mean, hello and welcome to Cassette Take, where you can eject wherever you want, but please don't forget to rewind. I'm Ethan.
I'm Annmarie.
And Annmarie, what did we just go see?
We just got out of seeing Wicked for Good.
Wicked for Good. And a lot of you actually joined us for our Wicked review back when that came out last year. So, I'm sure a lot of you were looking forward to this review for quite some time now. And, coming out of that one, give you all some context. Annmarie, you weren't a big fan of the first one.
No, there's gonna be a lot of context that needs to be given in this review, so I'm looking forward to it because I think there's such a backstory here for myself. But you know what? I went into this one with an open mind, an open heart, and was still disappointed.
She was not changed for the
I was
good.
not.
Me, on the other hand, I actually thoroughly enjoyed the first movie. I went into it not knowing anything about the original musical. I was not really expecting much, to be honest, other than, I knew Jon M is a great director. And that,
Amazing director, by the way.
yeah, then, I knew that Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo were phenomenal singers. I already knew that, right? I was so taken aback from that first movie
Mhm.
that I gave it a perfect 10 out of 10 last year.
Which I was so surprised by too, because we went in very differently. I went in and be like, this is going to be the best movie of the year. And you were really unsure about it. And you went out and you're like 10 out of 10 movie.
Yeah, even so much so that I believe it was on our most anticipated list for this year.
Hmm.
I actually put it on it was either an honorable mention or I had it on my top 5 list for most anticipated movies of 2025. And that was one, if you were to ask me right before the first Wicked came out, if that was going to be on my list for most anticipated, say you gotta be kidding me, no way. But after seeing it, oh my gosh, I fell in love with this movie. I got so excited for this one, Wicked for Good, that second part that I was not expecting as well to get the following year. I was expecting maybe a 2-year gap, but no, we got the following year. And now that following year has arrived. That following moment is now. And Annmarie, when all is said and done, we got our Wicked Part 1, we got our Wicked Now Part 2, Wicked for Good. What did you think about this one? Did you think that it jumped up from the first one, that you were let down by? Do you think it took a step down? What's your take?
This is really interesting because what ended up happening was after I saw part one, I went to New York City to see the musical.
Right.
And I really fell in love with the first movie after seeing the musical. And I was really interested going into this film because we'll get into spoilers later, but this film to me, or the musical, is kind of a little chaotic towards the end. And so what this film does though, I think it really enhances the story, and that's something that I really, really did enjoy. I think the singing's great. You guys know this. What After our first review, I was like, Defying Gravity should be the ending of it. Like, there doesn't need to be a part two in this situation. But the singing is really good. I just don't know why I'm not in love with this film. Like, I should be in love with it, and I don't know why.
I would think that it probably comes down to the reason why I'm not as much of a big fan of Wicked for Good as much as the first one. Wicked for Good, I enjoy. If you were to ask me what is my, one word thought about it, did I enjoy it? Did I not enjoy it? I enjoyed it quite a bit. I really liked it. But it was definitely, I would say, at the end of the day, more of a step down from the first movie. And a lot of people out there, I've been seeing different reviews, not just mixed, but like mixed in such a variety where it's like people liking the first half over the second half,
Mhm.
but or rather the second half over the first half, the first movie over the second movie over the first movie, different reasons as to why. It's such a interesting hodgepodge of reactions we're getting to these movies here. And I gotta say, for me, I like the first one significantly better than the second one. I think that what Wicked for Good does here is it carries on that same cadence for the most part, that same style
Mhm.
of the first one, but when it gets to certain aspects of it, I would say the second half of Wicked for Good, it kind of starts losing its footing. Its pacing kinds of falls out of place, and it feels like a marathon runner who is more than halfway done with their run, but forgets when they should start walking, when they should start jogging.
Mhm.
Should they be running here? Should they be jogging here? Should they stop to take a piss over there? Like, I mean, those bushes look so inviting. Who knows? But, I mean, it really does lose its footing, and you were mentioning that that's kind of how people are with the original musical, which I still haven't seen, unlike you.
Yeah, we'll go into spoilers with it because we'll spoil this movie and the musical. You'll get a 2 for 1 show, basically.
Yeah, so we'll start spoiling we'll give you guys a heads up when
Y
we do our spoiler talk, but for now, it's a
yeah.
non-spoiler conversation.
Yeah, so this it's interesting that you had that feeling because that's the exact same feeling I had when I saw the musical. It was, like, very chaotic, very fanficky, which I know that's what it is. Please don't attack me. I know that. But I just to me, I love everything. I love Ariana. I love Cynthia. I love the design. I don't love the plot of this. And I know some people are like, well, you can't do anything about the plot, but that doesn't excuse a bad plot in my head.
However, you can enhance what's already there, and I think
Yes.
they do that,
Yes.
because I think it was established before this movie even came out that they were adding some new songs that weren't in the original source material. They were, of course, adding if you just look at the run times, basically, you would know that there's gonna be more, to this movie than there was in the original musical.
Yeah, because the musical is 60 minutes for the second act, and this is a 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Right.
So it's way more, like, to it, which I think is super good. I think that's what enhances it a lot, so
Yeah, and it does succeed in a lot of those areas. However, it does let slide a lot of the things that you had mentioned did go unresolved in the original musical
Mhm,
that still go unresolved here. And I think that was such a big problem for me because I think the first half of this does a great job at kind of carrying on what came before. But as it gets into that second half, we start to get to that whole resolution part where we should starting to see like all these stories and subplots come to a head, and a lot of them don't reach that point where they're resolved. And I know that like not every story needs to have like the perfect resolution, but here it was some there were a lot of points that were definitively made as certain main characters' points of agency in the first movie
mhm.
that you wanna watch the second half to see how they resolve, and they're, like, completely forgotten about by the end of it, and it's like, "What?" And I wouldn't there's so many movies I like and so many musicals I like that are guilty of that, but, like, not to the same extent where it's one of the main characters' whole like biggest points of starting their journey, and by the end of it it's like, okay, that's just gonna be tossed to the side. Everything's fine now. There's no reason to go back to explain like what was going on there. It's just a blip.
I'm so glad you feel this way because I felt a little crazy when I came out and said I didn't love the first Wicked, and I felt crazy when I said I didn't love Wicked the musical because the way you're feeling is the way I felt when I went to go see it, and so again, like, people who love the musical will love this. I have no doubt about it, and if you love it, go see it. I think this is worth to go see in a theater, first off, like, go see it, but I think as people who both love movies and who love the idea of movies and script writing, it just it it falls apart towards the end.
Well, I mean, I think even for, theater heads that this definitely should be something that stands out to that. At the end, theater is something to convey a story, right?
Mhm.
Whether it be you have all the music in the world or, some of the greatest singers in the world, that's great. That's awesome aesthetic. But that does not excuse poor storytelling choices. And here, everything else about this movie, it's done so well and arguably at times immaculately.
Mhm.
And that's what the first one did so well. Everything came together, and even down to the story, like everything was so perfectly told and done and executed. And then here, it's like it had all those other elements that were doing that, but the main machine itself to really chug the story along was just kind of not having it and didn't want to be a part of that.
Mhm.
And we were talking about with our friend Cheyenne that we went to go see this with, that it does have elements of being consistent with the source material and that musical, where yeah, there are plot like points that aren't resolved,
Mhm.
but I feel like it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to kind of resolve those plot points here with like a simple quick mention or just like a quick thing, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe I would prefer if it were like a slightly longer, more elaborated version of it, but I would take even more of a quick nod to it, but here there's nothing to really acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And we'll get more into the spoilers later on about what I'm in particularly referring to, because it's really infuriating me that they went the route that they did with that.
Yeah.
And, maybe they just wanted to stay more true to that source material of lack of resolution in those areas. But because they did that, it brought the movie down quite a bit for me.
Yeah. I think it'd be so interesting, like, if you ever do go see the musical in New York or Chicago if it comes back, because I want to see your perspective of that too. And so, but overall, I think this movie, I thought it was so interesting when you said that this movie, the reviews, which we both try not to read reviews before we review something, so it's
Mhm.
not interfering with our review basically, but there is so much discourse around this film. It's not like I haven't seen people hate it, but people are like, it's better than the first one. It's not as good as the first
Right.
one. It's interesting because the first one it was loved. Like absolutely loved. And
You
so
don't tell me that.
yes, I know I should be telling myself that really. And so I don't know, it's interesting, but let's just get this straight. Cynthia and Oriana are perfectly cast in this.
Oh, 100. I mean, if you love them in the first movie, you're gonna love them here, without doubt. There was this constant back and forth about whose movie is gonna be what. They obviously, it's both of their story, but if we're talking about how much time and narrative is dedicated to one character over another, the first movie is definitely Elphaba's movie, and this movie is definitively Galinda's movie.
Yeah, I have to agree on that. And I don't know if theater people will like that or not because I think when you think of Wicked, you think of both of the girls together, which they are. But I'm interested to talk about that more in spoilers because I totally agree with you. I think Elphaba's story was the last one, and this one was Glinda's story. And not like that's a bad thing at all, but I think that's kind of how you had to do it for this movie.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way of providing that sense of making it truly like a sincere parallel to each other and balanced out. Um, where you have these characters, it's that sense of dichotomy, right?
Mhm.
And when you have that dichotomy there, it's ideal if you're gonna have two movies to break them down evenly, especially when you have two main characters. And I would say within the first 30 minutes of each, they do make it clear as to whose movie is what. And there's a lot of parallels that they share in that regard of certain story elements and when they're utilized, and it's very similar in a lot of ways, like almost in the sense of Star Wars George Lucas mentality of
Mhm.
it's like poetry, it
Oh
rhymes.
my god.
So,
It's pretty
um,
good, George Lucas.
I try. Give me the Oscar. No, but I think that no matter whose movies these are, at the end of the day, Wicked for good Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande. These performances are astounding. They are truly wonderful.
They're great singers too.
Oh my
Like,
gosh, top of their class.
yeah, and I would argue that all the good songs are in the first part, but they still made me love For Good. They belt those songs out and it's incredible.
There's songs that were actually added to this movie.
Yes, there's two new songs.
Do you think that based on the two original songs that were conveyed in this movie, do you think they're going to be nominated for an Oscar? Do you think that they're going to put one over the other? Like how do you think they're going to go about that?
Nominated, yes. Win, no. K-pop Demon Hunters has that in the back. Sorry.
Well, now which one though? Which song do you
They'll
think?
probably both be nominated. I will say, I think Cynthia's song is better in it, even though I like the idea behind Glinda's song more. And so it's interesting for that. Like, even when we're talking about the actresses, these two ladies will both be nominated, similar to last year. I'm gonna still stand by it. I still think Ariana Grande has a better chance of winning than Cynthia Erivo. Not saying Cynthia isn't good, but her like class is just more heavy hitters like Emma Stone, where I think Ariana Grande could pull off a win. But it would be cool if either one of them wins, but
Yeah, and that was such an interesting conversation that a lot of you guys joined us on last year, where it was like, who's gonna win the Oscar? Who's gonna be nominated for what? It's definitely gonna be Cynthia Erivo.
the end.
Yeah. It was just like this fun little back and forth banter. So thank you guys for joining us on that like little conversation we all had together as movie fans. And as I think there were quite a few theater fans on there too. So that was fun. We're definitely curious to get your thoughts on this year
Yeah.
with the go around of Wicked for Good. So let us know your takes on our tapes in the comments down below for that as you continue listening here. But yeah, keep going down that hole as well of like, the acting performances. What do you think about the supporting cast around them?
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away. I felt like they weren't in it as much, to be honest, and very similar to the musical. And so I wasn't like really like too impressed with any of them, to be honest. Like, really, the story is our Elphaba and Glinda. That's what the story is. Uh, I'm not a huge fan of Jeff Goldblum in this. I said that, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get rid of Cool for that." And so I just don't buy his performance. I think Michelle is good too. Again, I think they're good, but it comes down to the two main leads. So,
Yeah, and I would say that in regards to the supporting cast, I honestly think maybe Michelle Yeoh's performance takes a little bit of a step down from the first movie.
mhm,
Um,
I agree.
as for Jeff Goldblum, I don't know. I think he's still, like I mean, I think that's exactly what you want to be the wizard is a Jeff Goldblum type with that type of cadence and personality.
He's just playing the keeper in Thor 3, whatever that
Is
guy
that not
said.
kind of the wizard though?
Okay,
Like I mean, they
you're
basically
right.
typecasted here
You're
for
right.
Jeff Goldblum for this movie, and I'm here for it because it works 100%, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think along with them, and then obviously, we got our late announcement of what's his name?
Coleman
Coleman
Domingo.
Domingo as the Cowardly Lion.
Great.
I thought he was great, just definitely even though it's more, voice acting,
Yeah.
it's definitely one that Coleman, I think, is starting to really get truly come into his own.
I
Yeah,
love him.
yeah, I mean, he's a great actor in person with his presence and cadence, but when it comes to voice acting, we've seen him do it with that Spider-Man cartoon,
Mhm.
various other performances, and then now here with Wicked for Good. And gosh, he really does capture that cowardice, but like the kind that where it's like, oh, I kind of feel bad, but and you understand where
Yeah.
they're coming from, a little more sympathetic too.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, now I gotta say, one of the things that people forget about when it comes to these type of musical movies is I think they forget how good the score can be to enhance
Mm.
that soundtrack that they know and love. I'll have to pull up here who did the score. I believe it's Steven Schwartz. I could be
I
getting
don't
his
know,
name, but
but honestly, like, it's so incredible that these ladies are able to perform so well. And I know they're both like trained singers and everything, but I really feel like the music in this is just wonderful. That, haha, wonderful. But they really show case like a really strong presence when singing and the music behind it because there is even like scenes when they're not singing songs where the music is just you just feel it. Like I don't know how else to describe it.
yeah, and I just looked at, by the way, so Steven Schwartz is the main guy, the main composer, I believe, for it. But John Powell also participated
Oh,
in it.
really?
And if you don't know who John Powell is, we'll listen to his little repertoire of music. But How to Train Your Dragon, need I say more after that?
You're done.
But that's great. Like I love their music just on their collection alone. But with this movie, gosh, I really think it enhances that soundtrack so much.
Mhm.
The music is already good from how we've heard it in the musical. Again, I haven't seen the musical, but I have heard like Idina Menzel's, stuff on Spotify
Yeah.
with the musical, here and there. But when you listen to that stuff from Stephen Schwartz and John Powell, like enhancing Cynthia Erivo's performance, which you could say and argue, oh, that it doesn't need enhancing. It's perfect. It's just they're so incredibly world class singers. They don't need any enhancement, but it's there and it's enhancing. And
Yeah.
without their music, without their score, I don't think you get that same delivery.
Yeah.
And it's just it really hits home. It brings back that old school Hollywood, element to it that really a lot of people liked in the first one, including myself, and it continues on that main type those main motifs and that main cadence that we got from that first movie into this movie, and it's honestly one of my favorite parts of these movies is that musical score to go with that soundtrack. So, do you have any particular thoughts about that?
Well, let's be honest, like, Ethan and I are Dolby freaks. Like, that's the only way we like to go see our movies at this point.
I love me Dolby.
Eh,
Dolby.
and Dolby just makes it 10 times better. And so, again, like, this is a movie you have to go see in theaters because it's like a once in a lifetime. Like, we're not gonna get, unless I reboot it, but we're not gonna get this ever again. Like, it's just such a magical environment. It's visually beautiful. Jon M like deserves a lot of love for this, and you can tell he loves this musical. And so I I'm I think I love it when I get to go see it or when I'm gonna go see it with people who love the original because I think that's when the little kid comes out and when they are like it's just like me when I saw Dune. Like it's just like, oh my god, like this is real. Like this is a real thing. It's not just on a stage anymore. It's real. And so I think that's such a wonderful thing. So
Yeah, in more ways than one, we'll bring up why there's another Dune comparison to
yeah.
later in our little spoiler talk. But yeah, no, I really love getting that feeling from people that really are already big fans of this,
Mhm.
franchise and story, going into this type of movie and like getting so much of a kick out of it, like our friend Cheyenne did.
Yes.
She loved it quite a bit, more so than both of us, but still, all films subjective and it's great to see when someone loves a film, even when you don't. And it's just like, you know what? Joy is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and if we're changed for good eventually, that's great too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, Annemarie, I would say outside of the story threads and all that we talked about with some of the flaws of the movie, and, we've also praised this movie to no end with the cinematography, the
Mhm.
choreography, the acting, the score, everything above and in between. I gotta say, there is like one little thing as well that did kind of bother me. Whenever it was trying to get nostalgic and like say, hey, remember when the gang was all together and stuff like that? I feel like this isn't spoiler or anything like
Mhm.
that, but whenever the gang was all together, they would refer back to this moment where everyone was together underneath a tree. And I'm just like, that wasn't in the first movie. I'm not familiar with that. And if you're trying to get the audience to feel what your characters are feeling in that moment, I feel like there was a better moment to choose from the first movie
Yes.
that we would have been familiar with to really make us feel like, "Oh, yeah, that's when the gang was all together. That would make me feel something." Here, it was like a moment that we're just seeing now, and it's new to everyone here other than, maybe seeing clips of it from a trailer.
Yeah,
So
it's an easy, like, flip, I think, for, like, you could have just added a different scene in instead of the one that we saw instead.
yeah, so, I mean, it's such an easy fix too,
Yeah.
and I feel like you could have saved maybe the production a little bit of money by doing that, but
Listen, this is gonna make its budget back hands down,
yeah,
like,
I mean, hey, you save $1 million, I think that's a nice thing to do.
that's true.
Um, other than that, Emery, I think that's about it on my end for
I'm
spoilers.
so ready for spoilers,
All
so
right, guys. So I think it's about time we give this thing a ranking. So, Emery, out of 10 mysteriously placed green little bottle-y flask-looking things.
okay. How do I know that that's what you're gonna do? How do you know?
Yeah, I don't know. How many would you give this movie out of 10?
I think again, I have a very different experience than you do in this. After seeing part one, then flying to New York to see the musical, and then seeing part two. Because I really went into this film be like, Emery, you know you didn't love the musical. We're gonna go in with a big open heart. You're gonna have expectations on the floor, and I think this movie does really enhance stuff. I think it betters the story. I think the music where I don't love the music, but when it's performed by two incredible singers, I was like, okay, wow. I just am not in love with this. And I don't know why exactly? I think it just comes down to I'm not a fan of the plot of it, and so I'm gonna give it a 7. I think that's very fair. I would give the first part a 7.5 after kinda going through, like, seeing it in total, and so I think a 7's really fair here for me. It wasn't like I hated it. It wasn't the feeling I had when I first came out of part 1 where I'm like, "I really hated that." I didn't hate it. I just I was waiting for myself to fall in love, and I just never did.
Now that we have both movies, what would you give the whole story out of 10?
Is it bad that I would just say a 7 again? Yeah.
I mean,
Like, I think it's the plot to me is dreadful. Like, the plot, I would not I stand by it. I'm gonna still stand by it. The plot should have ended at defying gravity. There you go. You don't need any more. We don't need a for good. We don't need a no good deed. We don't need the second part. And so the plot to me is like a 4. But the movie overall, I think it's a 7 because or the movies overall is a 7 because of the acting, the visuals, like everything else that carries it. So,
mm, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I get you. I would have to give it this Wicked for Good an 8 out of 10 because it delivered in a lot of areas that I was hoping it would deliver in outside of the heart of it, which was the story. And like, the execution of a lot of it, I think, was near perfect on the same level of what we got in that first one, but where it falls flat, it really falls flat, like,
mhm.
when we get to that second half of the movie, it just, again, loses its footing so obviously, and I'm just like, "Excuse me, what?" In the first movie, I had no semblance I was just so taken aback by how awesome and beautiful and entrancing this movie was, I was so immersed by it. Here, it just felt like I was pulled out so many times and like, "Oh, oh, really?
Mm.
That I'm not sure about that. Oh, we're here now. Okay. I'm not sure when I got that plane ticket." Like it just got so messy towards the end,
Yeah.
and it just did not work. And which is interesting because again, there's so many people out there that prefer the second half of it to the first half of it,
Yeah.
which I'm like, "Really? Is it because of the nostalgia factor of The Wizard of Oz?" I mean, I don't know, but, like, it just gets a little interesting.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, I think the movie is so well executed and enhances a lot of the stuff that's there, and again, if it's just trying to go off of the original source material, which already was flawed in that second half of it, narratively speaking, then I can't blame it too much in that regard. I wish it could have enhanced it more, which it did in some areas, like we talked about. But here, it just wasn't enough for it to be on that same level as the first one.
Yeah.
Not, and obviously 2 notches down from that first one. So I gotta give it an 8 out of 10.
All right.
Now, if we're talking about both movies as a collective whole, I'd say I break even with 9 out of 10. Um, just because if I'm looking at this whole story, I think it was very well executed, and I'm glad I watched both movies and was happy to see, and I'd be more than happy to see both of them again as one giant supercut.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's time though for spoilers.
Yes.
Yeah. So guys, if you have not seen Wicked for Good, what are you doing? It's out in theaters now. Whether you weren't a big fan of the first one, you were a big fan of the first one, are you still gonna give this one a try? Are you excited for this one, or were you just turned off by the first one so much you're not even gonna bother to see it? I don't know. I just want to hear all your thoughts. Let us know your takes on our tapes in those comments down below. And with that, Emery, I think it's spoiler time.
Yes. I'm so ready.
All right, guys. So it's spoiler time. Again, if you have not seen Wicked for Good, please do eject at this point in the podcast. But if you haven't seen it and you want to proceed, um,
Weirdos.
get some help, please. You're stupefying me with your stupidness.
I think also we should put a warning in that we are going to spoil the musical as well. So if you don't want the musical spoiled for you, don't listen to this as well.
Yeah, and neither of us have read the book, so I
Yeah.
don't think we could possibly spoil that for you.
There's so much in here.
Yeah. But spoilers
Yeah.
nonetheless, plenty to be had, starting now. Now, Anne-Marie, fast forwarding on to spoilers, what are your initial thoughts that you can finally talk about?
Finally, I feel like I can finally say this because I really so the musical is very much Elphaba and Glinda's story, and you kind of alluded to it that you and I both felt that Elphaba's story was part one and Glinda's story is the second part. And the reason why is because they give her so much more in this. They give her the Girl in the Bubble song, which both of us didn't love, but we loved the idea of, this girl grew up believing all she really had to do is people to like you. They give her a backstory. They give her, she's in the song Wonderful. She's not in that originally. They give her so much more, and I think that's really good because, to be honest, she's kind of a jerk in the musical, and so I love that. Like, I really love it, and I think I like it more because I just relate more to Glinda than Elphaba, and so that's the thing that I don't know if theater people will love or hate that, though, because I feel like the musical does a better job of being like, this is their story, where in this I felt like this is Glinda's story.
Huh. I do think that there is such a significant increase in, and understandably so, on Galinda in this movie. And again, I love the idea of this, her song, like whether it is the bubble,
The girl in the bubble.
girl in the bubble, like her bubble is burst because she's now someone that was told since birth, basically, that your one thing you have going for you is people love you
Mm-hmm.
and that will never change. And now suddenly it's changed in a way, as she's become this Galinda the Good character,
Yes.
right? And she is finding that there are people out there like Fiero who, yes, love her, but not in the way she wants to be loved.
Yes.
And so that really causes this great sense of disillusionment and just it's like, oh my gosh, like this is what? This is how the world works. And, having that symbolic bursting a bubble while also walking past all these mirrors, which, by the way, great cinematography with that whole
Yeah.
sequence of like her walking through all these mirrors and the camera pulling in, zooming out certain areas. Like I thought that was so well done. So shout out to the camera team there and cinematographers
Mhm.
and direct like bravo. Now when it came to my biggest point of the issues with the movie,
Mhm. I know.
kind of going back to what you were implying, the narrative. The second half of the movie really goes on this tirade of like the Wizard of Oz stuff, right? Like, and that's fine. I love that. Does I was expecting that. It's just,
I'm giving a look because this is a huge problem in my head too. So
and I think that's fine. It does such a great like, you know, there. I think the story beats that hits of like what to focus on with it. That's great, and it felt like they did such a good job of focusing on the Wizard of Oz elements and how to implement them into the story, that they completely forgot one of the main reasons of Elphaba's agency in the first movie to do what she needed to do, like to approach the wizard with outside of, her being just different, but like her empathy towards the animals
yes,
and just like this idea of like, oh, why are they suddenly,
not
losing their
talking.
yeah, not talking, losing their voices, and all the people suddenly hate them as like a minority type.
Mhm.
It's like, oh yeah, I want to see when I watched the first movie, I'm like, how are we going to resolve this? Are we going to get some more details about why this is happening? Is this something that being done by the wizard? Is this like Michelle Yeoh's character and the wizard like doing something to like the weather or something? Which, by the way, was Michelle Yeoh's character in the first one like was it established she could use magic?
Yes.
Because okay,
Yeah.
because I thought it was implied maybe that she was faking it.
No, no, she
Okay,
can. Yeah.
okay. Then yeah, that makes more sense. But still, it doesn't result and it's not forgiven with the fact that like they don't even use that to establish why the animal stopped talking, why their situation is the way it is, and why Alphaba even goes after the wizard in the first place to kind of resolve that. There is no sense of resolution other than they're just back now and maybe they're gonna start talking again.
It's so interesting because Elphaba's song in what in this movie is her being like giving like I care about you guys. I want you here. I want you to help fight. And then it's never like they're like, welcome back, guys. Let's go. High five.
It's like, "This is your home. This is without you guys, this isn't the same place." And then it's just like, "Okay, is it still safe for them to come back? Because we haven't figured out why they stopped talking or why, like, a lot of them are having issues
Maybe
continue talking."
they never talk again because we don't hear them at the end talk. I'm kidding.
No, well, I mean, and also, like, the Cowardly Lion, why is he able to talk so much during this whole thing? And why are just about all the animals that are in that alphabet song able to talk? Like, they're fine.
I feel like you're experiencing what I felt like with the musical. I'm like, am I crazy that they just don't talk about this in the musical? Because
Mhm.
the musical does it worse than this. It's funny that it's like looking in a mirror basically. But no, it's so frustrating because I totally get what you're saying because it's set up so much and you're like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for this resolution. And then they kind of forget about like
Like,
there's
they forgot about the Tin Man.
yes.
Like, he's just gone now.
Let's just talk about this now. There's too many things at the end. Like I think we both agreed that we like the first act of this movie more than the second act. And where it starts to fall apart is when Dorothy arrives. Cuz then they're shoving a story and like this is the biggest problem I have with this. Like it's fan fiction, I get it. But they're shoving a story into another story and I'm like it's doesn't work.
Well, I think when they do that, I think it's fine, like, to do that, but and the way they do that, for the most part, I think works, but it's like they in order to do that, the caveat was, "Oh, yeah, we have to sacrifice all these other story threads we had going and
Yeah.
just, like, burn that end of that thread, and you just never get to see the end of it."
I don't think it works.
And
I'll be honest, I don't.
and I wouldn't mind it so much, except again, it's one of the main points as to why she's going to visit the wizard.
Yes.
In the first which, by the way, going back to that, and this is kind of more so in the middle, so I wanna say it's part of the first half of the movie, but it's kinda there towards the end of it, is that whole moment of them going to see the wizard again, right? And you have Elphaba in the room, you have Belinda, and you have the wizard, and it's like, "Here's another chance," like, didn't we just like this was the whole point of the ending of the first movie. We know that he can't be trusted. We know that there's a lot of prisoner like these animals have been treated harshly and like it, it just there
It's like,
yeah, the
why
fact that
go
she
back?
yeah, and she did bring up some like good points like, oh, maybe he's telling the truth this time. Maybe like there's like
You know you
some
can't
sort of
trust
hope.
them.
Yeah, but I get the idea of wanting to believe that, but it just felt too easy, especially after all that transpired, like that traumatic stuff at the end of the first movie.
Mhm.
I know that there's been some passage of time, but not so much so where I'm like, you should just be immediately enamored by this man's deal for you.
Yeah.
And I just it baffled me that it was even a consideration for Elphaba in that moment. So, and another thing, let me talk about another thing here. There could have been so many other ways that and I know they were trying to connect it with the Wizard of Oz, and I would say just about every other story aspect that they have to connect this story to the Wizard of Oz, they do a good job with. The one thing that I'm not 100% sure I can get behind is why did you need a giant house to do like and from the way that the dialogue is written, it doesn't sound like they were expecting anyone to be in that house, like a Dorothy character.
I'll defend it real quick. And
Okay.
I don't think she meant to bring the house to Oz. I think she was like, I'm gonna make this tornado to hurt the Munchkin land. I will defend that. I will say. I don't think the house was I think they were kind of like, why is this girl just show up? Like, I don't think that was
Okay.
yeah. I'll see. I defend this movie.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure because I wasn't
It
sure
is weird. It's just like, oh, like I guess you have to add it so the Wizard of Oz can fit
yeah,
it.
I guess I was kinda thinking ahead when I was watching that
Yeah.
part, I'm like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, no, that's a good point, I probably should have seen that
But
earlier.
I think you're 100% right.
Mm.
I just don't think like again, and this is maybe why I'm like really think this was Glinda's movie because it just focused on her way more. In my I would love to know. I know they got paid the same. I would love to know their screen time differences because I just felt like she was in it way more than
You mean in this movie alone or, like, in
in
the
this
whole
movie
okay.
alone. Like it just felt like she had they just give her so much more, and I appreciate that because, again, I think this is a character I like, and so because in the musical, I'm like, "Wow, you're a jerk." I think the main point and this is what I was told, like, Wicked is basically everyone's Wicked, and I'm like, okay, I guess so," like, great message and all that, but, like, to me, I feel like they give, like, more background of it, and so it's like, well, they're wicked because of this reason, and so I don't know. I agree with you, though. I stand by it. I think I just feel like they are trying to cram so much stuff in here, and I don't know how you fix it, though.
Well, I mean, the reasonable response to that, to fix it, is just dedicate more time like, I feel like you could have given this movie 15 more minutes to elaborate on that. Because what,
Yeah.
it's 2 hours 15?
This is 2 hours 15, yeah.
I feel like you could have survived with a 2.5 hour movie with this one, especially with the audience that is more often than not majority are used to going to musicals and are expecting that longer running time being in a seat, getting that intermission, all that jazz. So I feel like you could have gotten away with a 2.5 hour movie.
I agree. I think you definitely could have, but it's so interesting. They never take away anything from the musical. They just add stuff. And so it is just the musical. Like, this is what it is. Like, it's very faithful to it. And I kind of almost went into it like one of my favorite movies as a kid was Aladdin. So when they made live action Aladdin, I was very excited for it. And they changed some stuff to live action Aladdin, but it's the same story overall. I thought they might do something similar to this where they change stuff, but they don't change stuff. They just add stuff to it.
Which is good. I
Yeah.
think, like, if you're there to enhance something, make it better than it was, and from the sounds of it, since you've seen the musical, I have not,
Mhm.
it sounds like it has, and it's still stayed true to the point, to the source material, even down to some of its faults.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because, I'm more willing to give a little slack in those areas of certain, like, not everything needs a resolution. Not all those subplots need, like, there's a lot of movies out there that I like that have subplots that are not resolved, and even some of the little main plots throughout that just are not resolved and leave open, stuff to a sequel or something like that. But when you make this movie like the definitive, for the most part, the definitive end of the Wicked story for, to cover this area of time, right? I know there's other books and all that, but like if we're talking about just covering the musical that's based on,
Mhm.
I feel like you need that more finality to it here. And the fact that you make it where there's this character, the main character from the first movie, one of the two main characters, I should say, if we're looking at it as a whole. But the fact that it's, again, one of their biggest points of agency to get to the wizard, and it's just like not resolved by the end of it as to figuring out what was going on there. And you could say like, "Oh, but that's why Glinda now has the ability to figure it out with the Grimmery, and like that it's her job now to do that and take on that responsibility." I mean, maybe if it were established as a trilogy, sure, but
Yeah.
it felt like such a big point in the first movie that it had to have more of a sense of clarity and finality to it, and we didn't get that here. Maybe that's more of a subjective point on my end, but I
Well, it's
yeah.
interesting because our friend Cheyenne said, "Well, like you could do that for a musical, but not for a movie." But like to me, that's still bad plot. Like I'm like, it's a, it's not a, it's it doesn't excuse it for being a bad plot, basically. And we both kind of said that earlier. And so I don't know. And then just like I don't love the ending of this. I know there's books afterwards, but like this freaking Dune ending.
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
She just walks off.
So, like, she's got, like, that kind of veil looking thing.
Lady
Yeah,
Jessica look like.
or, in this case, it would be more, resemblant of,
Zendaya?
yeah, Zendaya's character,
Yeah.
Chani.
Johnny.
Yeah, Chani, and, just walking off into the desert from the person that's being crowned, the next head of state there, and she's putting on her crown, it's cutting back and forth with this epic score playing, and it's just like, gosh, this is almost beat for beat the ending of Doom Part 2. That's all I can think about at
A
the ending.
sandworm comes out.
I mean, honestly, the way it was set up, I kind of was half expecting it.
Yeah.
You saw some of the sand flying through there. Could have been like the little rumblings of a sandworm popping up. I was kind of expecting to see Fiero in the background going like, "Where's my thumper?"
Well, this is the thing. It kind of leads me into this question. We know there's books. We know that there's 5 books in total. This is not where the story ends. Do they
Wicked, that is.
for Wicked?
Mm.
Do and do we get a third Wicked movie?
I think I've been hearing some whispers and talks in the trades about, yeah, they probably will. I mean, considering that this is it presumably will be a big box office
Yeah,
hit.
it's gonna make its money.
Now the thing that throws me off about it is because they're already establishing like a kind of a placeholder of what's going to take, replace of Wicked in there. their spreadsheet here, which is that, Sabrina Carpenter Alice in Wonderland musical
Mhm.
that they're looking to set up at Universal. I'm not sure if that's going to be the, big plot. I mean, I'm sure there's gotta be someone looking into, like, what can we take from the books that we can do, but what rights do they have? Do they have the rights to the books? Do they have the rights to just the musical? Because the musical only covers the one book, right?
Yeah.
So if they only have the rights to the musical, they only have the rights to that one book. So we'd have to see what rights are garnered and gained over this period of time after these movies play out.
It would be interesting because a part of me's like, "Listen, the last movie made $700 million. This one's probably gonna make more. $1 billion, I'm not sure, but it's probably gonna come close to, I would say, 800, $900 million. Why would you stop? Like, it's the same idea that Twilight made so much money and then they just stopped. Like, why would you stop at this point? Now, I know people are gonna be pissed at that because I don't think they want another one. I think they're gonna be like, this is definitely it. Like, this is what I want. This is what I got. But let's say this does make $1 billion. You have 3, 4 other books? I don't know, like
Well, I mean, also, are those stories worth telling? Like, I mean,
yeah,
that's
we
the
don't
thing.
know anything about the books.
It's like, oh, hey, Ulysses is one of the greatest books of all time. Let's make a movie out of it. I'm not sure if it's gonna translate all that well from a book. Like, and if you know the story of Ulysses, it's definitely one that would be an interesting, difficult translation to the screen
Mhm.
based on the story and how it's written. So I don't know. It's just like I don't know, should you? Shouldn't you? I don't know. I haven't read any of those books, so I'm not one to really say. But in regards to what next steps would be from a business perspective rather than an artistic integral perspective, yeah, I would say do everything you can to look into
Mhm.
what books you can get the rights to before someone else jumps on. I'm not sure. I didn't do this part of my research here. I don't know if Universal already has the rights to these books, or if they even have the rights to the original book, or if it's, one that is they just have the rights to the
Or if
movie.
they would wanna do it
Or
too.
I'm sorry, the rights to the musical. But yeah, if
Yeah.
they want to do it, I think they definitely want to make another one. But
I
I
don't
don't
know
think
if everyone would want to.
well,
I
I don't
don't
think
think
John Chu would come
no,
back.
I don't think Cynthia or Ariana would come back either.
Yeah,
Well, again, don't know if they
we
do come back.
like, cause they love those characters so much, but they love the musical version of those characters, right? Who knows if they've even read the books of those like, what happens after the events of Wicked?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's just such an interesting point, a watershed moment to kinda, like, see which direction they go with it here because, like you said, there's 5 whole books in total here, and the success of just one of those books slash the musical was such a big hit. Are you gonna dig deep and see what you can do with the books to elaborate on it? Or, are you going to do your honestly, they could maybe do their own thing. Like, hey, maybe they don't like what happened in the books and they like what is John they might go to John M. True say, hey, what do you think happens to these characters after this?
Or even just like in the world of Oz. Like maybe they don't do the books, but they do something in the world of Oz.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. I mean, it could, for good or bad, it could be like a Star Wars sequel trilogy situation
Mhm.
where there was source material there with the books, with like, for example, Timothy Zahn's novels with 7, 8, and 9, where you could have done an Heir to the Empire trilogy, right? And here, they ended up going with 3 movies that for good or bad, turned out the way they
Yeah.
did. Bad. Eh, I didn't say that. Um, and maybe you could go down a similar route with, Oz, but it's interesting because they're not the ones that own the original Wizard of Oz rights. So how far can you go? What will you do? What are your restrictions? It's gonna be really interesting to see how Universal goes about this.
All I know is if Ariana and Cynthia do another one, we're gonna get some great interview moments out of them again.
Yes, we will.
Oh my
We
god,
will.
oh my
We will. We will. No, love them to death.
god.
They're truly world-class talents, and
Way better than us.
yeah, so, yeah, these movies, I think at the end of the day, I had such a blast with,
Mhm.
and even though I did have my significant problems with the second half of the second one, I still had a blast. I'm so happy I saw these movies. And if they do make another one, for like a whoever the other entries in the Wicked series are, I'm definitely at the theater to see that, for good or bad.
I'm sad.
You're sad.
Yes.
Which is interesting to hear you say because it's like, gosh, I really can't get behind it. And then it's like, I am sad.
I wanna know.
But Emery, I think that about does it.
Let's wrap it.
All right, guys, thank you for joining us on this episode of Cassette Take. We hope you haven't ejected thus far into the podcast, especially with some of our interesting takes on this one that you may or may not agree with. But no matter what, let us know your takes on our tapes, what you thought about this whole thing in those comments down below. And with that, Emery, let's get this thing done.
Yes, let's do it. Thank you guys so much again.
I just want to say that it was the first Wicked review. We mentioned this at the beginning, was just such a blast with so many people that joined this community out of nowhere, and it was just like, wow, people love to hear us talk and babble into a microphone for a bit, and
Mhm.
they enjoy the conversation that we have with you guys down below. So it's always exciting, when we get a movie like this that's able to do this for good or bad. And for here, I would say this is definitely the for good aspect of it, that you know you guys get to join us in this great conversation that is the love of films, that is the love of storytelling. And we're looking forward to hearing all your takes on our tapes. So we hope you haven't ejected thus far into the podcast. But whether you have or haven't, please don't forget to rewind. I've been Ethan.
I'm Annmarie.
And
Oh god.